Alright guys, BLM here back with a new video, and in this video we're back with another casting video, a Big Brother casting video, which shockingly I have not done in a while. I did not realize it's been almost 5 years since I've even done a normal casting video for Big Brother, but here I'll be redoing a casting video I've done 5 years ago, where here I'll be making an updated cast for the theme of Big Brother Second Chance, where obviously we'll follow the same rules that Survivor Second Chance had, of players that have only played one time before, and also no winners. We'll be making a cast of 16 here, again in line with the size of typical Big Brother casts, and again we'll be going through Survivor history, talking about the contenders along the way. Now, straight up, this ended up being a very recent cast, and I do think that is the way that Big Brother would be casting the returning seasons nowadays. I do think very few people from very early on in the show are likely to come back at this point. I do think, obviously, the casting of the show very much caters towards the casual audience, where obviously the casual audience will know a lot more of the more recent players. Now, to be fair, BB22 definitely had a lot more old schoolers than I was expecting, though also, to be fair, the likes of Casey and Josh that drop out the last second, to where either way, again, I do think this will be a very recent cast, though we'll still run through the contenders from old school seasons anyway. So let's start off. We got BB1, where obviously no one's coming back from BB1. BB2, I did consider a few people legitimately. I do think someone like a Nicole is someone to mention here, though again, considering the fact that she turned down All Stars back in the day, I doubt she's particularly high on their radar. Monica is someone I'll mention here as someone that is still pretty prominent in the Big Brother community. She still shows up at events, and I know like Julie still remembers her. Or again, maybe Monica is very much in contention, though I did not put her on the cast. I'd also consider Hardy, who again would be an interesting returnee. I don't think he's particularly interested in it, and again, I don't think they have him that much on their radars. Bunky is someone to mention here, someone that again was in the running for All Stars, and someone that also again shows up at events here and there, though again, I think Monica's probably more likely than him anyway, so I did not go with him. Moving on to BB3, and we have some contenders here. I mean, the big one is obviously Jason Guy. I think Jason Guy would be a really, really cool returnee. I just don't think he's dying to play again. Obviously, he has a job as a news anchor. I don't know if he's willing to take off 3 months of his life to play Big Brother again. And really, that's in general one of the bigger issues of Big Brother casting, is that with Big Brother casting, you have to find people that are willing to spend 3 months of their lives playing a game that they've already played before. And I think that's a very difficult task. To where, again, while I do think Jason would theoretically like to play again, I do feel like just the timing of everything makes him unlikely. I also considered Amy, who was someone that was a big character at the time. Someone that I do think would have been contention for All Stars at the time, though obviously I think her time has probably passed. Next for BB4, and no one was really in contention here. I mean, I kind of considered G, but I feel like G's one of these people that probably doesn't want to play again. The only other consideration was Dana, who obviously was in the running for All Stars. Someone that, again, I think they liked, though, I mean, again, it's been so long, and I don't think she's really as prominent as someone like Monica or Bunky in terms of the modern community. So again, didn't make it on. Next for BB5, and the big consideration for BB5 here is Cowboy, where, I mean, I was going to attempt to put one old schooler on the cast, because, again, I think maybe they could try to do so. And, like, there is some precedent to that, and the fact that obviously they brought Chicken George on All Stars. I think that was still a spot where, like, they just wanted representation of each season. So we're looking at BB22. It's like, yeah, we got Janelle and Kaser, but I don't think they were necessarily there for old school representation. I think they just wanted Janelle and Kaser. At the end of the day, I decided Cowboy's just someone that I think is a bit outdated nowadays. I just don't know if he's top of their minds. Where while yes, he was almost brought back for All Stars and BB11, I just feel like his time has passed, so where again, did not put him on. Now for BB6, where again, had a few considerations, but no one made the cut. The first one to consider was Yvette, who, again, was supposedly in the running for BB22. So, again, I think she was another one of these, again, more feasible people we brought back for modern second chance cast if I wanted to bring back a old school player. But again, I just don't feel like she would ultimately be one picked here. But again, she was definitely an option. Also, to consider Bo, who is someone that also has popped up a bit more recently, to where I also considered him. But again, I just feel like Yvette's more likely. And also, I did consider Rachel, another person, again, been around the community here and there. Someone that gets talked up as having a lot of potential. But at the end of the day, again, I don't know how much they particularly liked her, or again, did not put her on the cast. Next for BB8, and again, I would love to see some people from BB8 here, but again, I don't think it's happening. But I did consider Eric, who obviously, again, would be great to see. Obviously got screwed his first time around. Yeah, I just don't feel like production is looking at him nowadays. And also, I know he himself has said that he probably wouldn't say yes now in the modern day. So again, Eric did not make the cut. I also considered Jessica, who obviously was almost back for BB11. Also would be a bit of a throwback pick here, yet did not go with her. And also, I did consider Jen, where I would love to see Jen back. She was obviously supposedly in the running for Matrix 38, to where, again, you never know. But I ultimately do feel like, again, they would favor more recency, especially considering that's what they did with The Amazing Race, where, again, I ultimately did not go Jen. For BB9, and I didn't even consider a single BB9 person. So let's move on to BB10, where, I mean, I would personally love to see Rennie. Obviously, incredible character, but another person that, again, I don't think is really on their radars. I don't think she's someone they're particularly likely to bring back. Also considered Michelle Acosta, who, again, I also would love to see. Just someone that, again, I don't think is really on their radars at this point, especially when she was not really in consideration for BB22, to where, again, did not pick her. Also, I did consider Libra as someone that, again, normally I would not even talk about her, but again, she supposedly was in the running for Amazing Race, where, again, if that's the case, CBS at least has their eyes on her, though realistically, Libra is someone that has called out production constantly, well, also has said that she doesn't really want to play Big Brother again. I would not expect Libra on Big Brother in particular down the road, but again, at least there were some eyes on her. And also, I will mention Brian, just because, again, he was in the running for BB11. It felt like there was a point where they were pretty apt to bring him back. Yeah, again, I think his time has passed, especially for First Boot, to where, again, did not put him on. Next for BB11, and I have a soft spot for this season, but also none of these people are actually coming back. But again, I did consider Russell, who's someone that I personally would like to see back. I've always been a big Russell fan, but again, I don't think CBS is ever bringing back Russell, especially in the modern day, so I would not expect him on. Next for BB12, and BB12 is a bit of a stranger just because, again, we've already had so many returnees from BB12, to where really the only options here were the remaining brigade members, where I did consider Lane, who is someone that I wouldn't be opposed to see back. Again, I thought he was a really fun character and an interesting player on BB12, though realistically, again, I don't think he's top of their minds. And also, I consider Matt Hoffman, who, again, would make my dream cast. I would love to see Matt Hoffman play again. But again, he's had a decent amount of opportunities at this point. They haven't brought him back yet. I would not expect him to be someone they would bring back in a modern season. Next for BB13, and I surprisingly have a few contenders here. Again, I did consider Portia, who also was rumored to be in the mix for Amazing Race, and someone that, again, I think also has a decent second chance storyline, came extremely close to winning. Yeah, just someone, again, I don't think is really that close to getting on. I know a lot of people would mention Kalia. Yeah, I just never really got the sense they loved Kalia, and I don't feel like Kalia is someone that would be super top of mind for them nowadays. Or again, she did not make it on. Also considered Lawan, who, again, was a really funny character at the time. Obviously, again, his dumb move has really lived on in infamy, but I just don't feel like he's someone that is super top of mind for them to be actually bringing back as a returning player on a future season. Also, you consider Dominic, where Dominic is somebody that obviously since then has gone on to marry Danny, and through that, again, at least would have an interesting storyline in return, though realistically, I have other showmance partners on the cast itself over Dominic, to where ultimately, again, I went with the other person. Next up for BB14, and realistically, there's not really any true option of BB14. The only person that I truly considered here was Jody, just because of obviously the memes of it all, but again, kind of like Lawan, I feel like they like to bring up Jody, but not in a spot where they actually think of actually bringing her back, to again, did not put her on. Next for BB15, which is obviously a season they would like to forget, but again, I did consider McCrae, again, somebody that they also like to bring up here and there, but just one that, again, I don't think they ever thought of him as a potential returnee, especially with how open he is with just calling out production anyway. Judd would be a lot of fun, especially after watching him play Sequester, though I just don't think he's top of mind for them. Also, I did consider Alyssa, who I think is probably the person who has the best chance of getting on to a returnee season from this season, but ultimately, again, did not go with her. Also considered Helen, who is obviously someone that, like, the Twitter community would love to see back, though realistically, again, I don't think she is someone that production is necessarily looking at. Also, I did consider Howard, just because obviously he would have a great second chance storyline, though again, another one that I just would not expect him to make the cast in the modern day. Now we're on the BB16, and we finally have a cast that I put one person on the cast from. It's a miracle. Sadly, I do have to mention Caleb. I do feel like Caleb is someone that they would be looking at. Again, he's made appearances in the season since. He's obviously gone on to play Survivor, to where CBS does seem to like him, though ultimately, again, I did not want to put him on the cast. Also consider Frankie, and Frankie's one that probably would be a lock on the cast had he wanted it. However, again, I just don't think Frankie's saying yes to a 90-day season of the show, so again, did not put him on. Also, I considered Zach, where Zach is somebody that, again, would have been a lock returnee had he not blown it up for himself, but to be fair, also in the years since, come out of other reasons why he would not want to come back, to where, again, Zach would probably never play Big Brother ever again anyway. Also considered Amber, just simply for the fact that obviously she's a bigger name nowadays from going on to the challenge, being a challenge winner, and again, there were the rumors that she was in the running for 22. Realistically, though, again, I would not expect Amber in a modern Big Brother season. And also, I'll mention Devin. I mean, Devin is someone that was again, in the running for Amazing Race with Zach following that season, where, again, CBS had their eyes on him at one point, but ultimately, again, did not make the cuts. But the person I did put on the cast from BB16 does end up being someone that I'm very unsure on, but I did end up putting on Donnie. And Donnie is one of these people that I am just shocked that we have not gotten a Donnie return since then, considering the fact that Donnie is still a massive fan of the shows and had the largest amount of votes cast for him for America's Favorite, to where, again, the fact that he is someone that they never actually brought back and never seemed to consider, again, the fact that he supposedly wasn't even called for BB22 is kind of insane. And to be fair, that should be a reason why he's not on this cast. However, I just felt like at the end of the day, it would be kind of mind-boggling to see Donnie not be in the running again. And even though, again, practically, again, I am a bit unsure if they would actually call him or not, I did feel like having someone like Donnie felt right on this cast. In a cast that, and truth be told, most of it is very modern. A lot of the cast does come from the last few seasons. Yeah, I tried to have some like token people from at least like this era of the show, which I could still see them bring back some people from, as indicative by The Amazing Race. So again, I do feel like Donnie is somebody that should be top of mind for them. So again, I did go Donnie on the cast. Next up for BB17, another cast. I put one person on the cast from. Though, again, considerations, I did consider Johnny Mac. Now, Johnny Mac's, again, kind of in that same ballpark as Donnie and someone that I would have expected to be back for 22, yet never really was in the rumor mill. However, again, I was really only going to have one of the two on. I did go Donnie. Again, I think Donnie is obviously just, again, a massive fan favorite. In a spot where Johnny Mac was very well liked. Again, he got second in the fan favorite poll, but I do feel like Donnie, to me, feels like a more likely returnee. So again, I did not go Johnny Mac. Also considered Shelly, someone that, again, always felt like a really good second chance candidate, though another one that I just feel like her time's kind of passed. I do feel like if she was ever to be in the running, it would have probably been BB22, though she was kind of forgotten about by that point, where, again, I don't think Shelly is much in the running anymore. And the person from BB17 I did put on the cast ends up being Vanessa. Now, again, Vanessa is one of the biggest locks on the board if she wants it. And I think that is the big question with Vanessa, is that I don't know if Vanessa would say yes to a 90-day season, but there's also nothing telling me that she would say no. Where, again, it seems like she did turn down BB22, but again, she was pregnant at the time. So we don't really know if she would have actually said no if that wasn't the case. So again, considering there's no like concrete information that Vanessa would actually say no to a returning season, screw it. I'm going to put Vanessa on, even though it's not really that likely, but still Vanessa's on that, again, should be a lock to return if she wants it. And I feel like this is kind of a decent spot for her. Next up for BB18, and again, next up for BB18, again, I put one person on the cast, a few other considerations. People I did consider Natalie Negrotti, and Natalie is someone that's interesting because she obviously was just on The Amazing Race, to where, again, that could be a sign that they'd be willing to bring back for Big Brother. However, I do think she is fighting a lot of other people for similar slots, and I do feel like they would pick a certain other person over her, especially for Big Brother itself. That, and also, again, I don't know if Natalie would even say yes to Big Brother. I never really got the sense that she was dying to play Big Brother again. I have a 90-day season, where while obviously she ends up being on The Amazing Race, I did feel like for Big Brother in particular, I did feel like there's an option that was more likely than her. So again, I did not go with her. Also, I considered Paulie Calafiore, who obviously has since then made a career for himself on The Challenge and other reality shows, though also Paulie, someone that, again, I don't know if you really want him on Big Brother live feeds nowadays, or again, I think ultimately Paulie, someone that I don't think would make the cut. Also, I did consider Jose, just simply because Jose was obviously in the running for OTT, to where, again, they were clearly willing to bring back Jose at a point. However, obviously, it has been years since, and again, I just don't think he makes the cut for a second chance cast. The person I did end up putting on here, again, as I referred to earlier, the spouse of another player, we got Victor. And Victor's in this weird spot here where I always expected Victor to come back after BB18, but again, he's not one that just never did. Again, he had the opportunity in BB22, and they just didn't pick him there, and it does make me question, like, would they really want Victor back? Though, again, they brought him back for Amazing Race, and again, he was brought onto the challenge. So again, I think there is like one at Paramount that does like Victor here, to where, again, I ultimately decided to put him on this cast, even though, again, I'm also a bit unsure if they would actually pick him at this point, but I do feel like Victor fulfills a lot of slots. Again, fills a POC slot. Obviously, he's a big challenge beast. Also, is a very different person to where he was the first time around. And also, again, is married to Nicole Franzel, to where, again, I think there are these interesting aspects of his story on the return, to where, again, I did end up putting him on. Next up for BB19, and I put one person on the cast. But again, the considerations, I did consider Alex, where Alex is actually someone that also surprised me that she was not in the running for 22. Not that I liked Alex, I really didn't, but I did feel like Alex was someone that they kind of glorified in the edit, to where I expected her to be brought back, but she never did, and at this point, again, not going to put her on my cast. Also, I consider Raven, because why not? But again, she obviously didn't make it on. Also, I consider Cody, who obviously was the fan favorite of the season, but also it's like, I don't need to see Cody, and also I don't know if Cody works on modern live feeds, or again, we're better off without Cody, so I did not put him on. The person I did put on, sadly, did put on his wife in Jessica, where again, like, I mean, is she ever going to actually be able to play? Who knows? But I do think CBS would want Jessica back. Obviously, they immediately brought her and Cody back for The Amazing Race. Julie Chen, even more recently, talked about how Jessica is someone that she would like to see back. For a while, again, Cody in particular has not aged well in the years since. I feel like Jessica is someone that they're still probably willing to give a chance to. And I think she has a pretty decent second chance storyline here. Again, the issue is the fact that they're connected to Cody. But I do feel like at the end of the day, again, I do think she's someone that they would be looking at as a potential returnee. So again, I did put her on the cast here. Next for BB20, which I was surprised to see no one from BB20 actually make my final cuts. Again, BB20 obviously was a very popular season to where, again, I expected people to make it on, yet just no one ended up ultimately doing so. I did consider Angela, who obviously was later brought back for Challenge USA, to where, again, would not be shocked if they asked her for BB, but at the end of the day, it's like, I don't think she's a top priority, along the fact that I don't even know if she would say yes. She probably wouldn't, to where, again, did not put her on. Also, Brett is someone that I am shocked never returned, considering how popular he was at the time, BB20, to where, again, he's someone that seemed like someone that would be brought back for 22, but wasn't. And again, on this cast here, again, it's kind of tough to fit him in. Again, trying to fit into diversity mandate, which obviously isn't really still in play officially, but again, I think they're at least going to attempt to make the cast fit there, to where ultimately Brett, again, did not make the cut there. I considered Haley, who was someone that also at the time, they kind of glorified in the edit, made her come off as a better player than what she really was. I assumed that they really liked Haley, though another one that I don't know if she necessarily says yes, especially to a 90-day season. For a while, she would have been consideration to make the cut. I did not end up putting her on. Also consider Caitlyn, someone who, again, massive character at the time. I expected her to be in the running for 22, though it didn't seem to be. And at that point, again, I don't think Caitlyn is really someone they're picking in the modern day. And next for BB21, where shockingly, I didn't end up having anyone from BB21. I can't believe it. And really didn't consider that many people either. I mean, I did consider Cliff. And again, I would like to see Cliff back. I think there's a lot of intrigue there. I think the issue is at this point, again, wanted him back, they would have brought him back immediately afterwards. And I think the fact that there were not many BB21 people on BB22 is probably just a sign they're not really looking at this cast that much. To really just how recent Cliff was at that point. For someone that, again, got a pretty big edit on just the following season, for him not really be in the running for the following season is pretty damning there. Also, consider Tommy, who is someone that, again, I think they liked at the time, has been brought back for the challenge since. Though, again, I think there's a reason you would think they would bring him back, but he's another one that, again, I expected him on BB22 when he wasn't there. Again, I just don't feel like he's a super high priority for them, so again, did not pick him. Also, I'll mention Kat here, who obviously was brought back for The Amazing Race, and again, she was always this person that I did suspect would have potentially been on their radars, though. I think it's another one that, again, you would think if they would have wanted her back, they would have brought her back for 22. And in the years since, I don't get the sense that she's a priority for Big Brother. But though, again, I could see a world where she's deep in consideration, though I just ultimately did not end up picking her. Next, moving on to BB23, the new era of Big Brother. And this is where we start to get a lot more of the cast. Again, literally 3/4 of the cast do come from the more recent seasons. And BB23 is one of the casts that has the most players returning here. We have 4 people from BB23 making the cut. Now, again, the considerations. I mean, Big D is still out there. I'm sure he wants to play Big Brother again. I doubt they're particularly high on Big D to bring him back, though, again, you never know. Azah is someone I think would be in the running, and obviously she was on Challenge USA, though I think at the end of the day, she came out of the season kind of saying that, like, Big Brother is not really the show for me, and came back for Challenge anyway. But again, I do get the sense that she would probably not want to play a 90-day season. To be fair, she would probably not make the cut anyway. Now, I did consider Hannah, who is relatively close to making the cut here. However, I did end up picking other Cookout members over her. I did feel like, again, having too many Cookout members on the cast would be a bit strange, even though, to be fair, I could definitely see CBS doing that. But again, it's a spot where also, again, obviously she did just come back for Amazing Race. She was in the running for the challenge, where while I do think a 90-day season might be a bit questionable considering her schedule, I do think there's a world where she says yes. And again, I very much contemplate putting her on, though by the end, I just decided to go with a non-Cookout member over her to just not oversaturate them. So again, she did not make it on. And the same thing goes with Alyssa Lopez. Again, Alyssa Lopez, I think they liked. Obviously, they brought her back for challenge and had a very good run there. However, Alyssa has said more recently that she doesn't even have time to do the challenge anymore. So again, if you don't have time to do challenge, you don't have time to do Big Brother for 3 months. So again, I doubt she would say yes. And also, I considered Frenchie, who I do think they very much liked, and I actually did deeply consider Frenchie. Where again, Frenchie, Donnie, I think they were fighting for the same slot. I did go Donnie. Obviously, Donnie is the more prominent figure, and beyond that, I think, again, there's other BB23 people to get. So again, I think having more than 4 people from one cast on a cast of 16 is a bit overboard. So again, I did not go with Frenchie here. The people I did put on Kylan. And again, Kylan was actually the last person to make the cut for the BB23 people, where Kylan's someone that I think they're fine with. I mean, obviously, I think they were kind of like scared by his exit, but and he's still someone that is constantly going on the challenge, and he's someone that has said that he would like to play again. So again, I think he would say yes, and I think he's someone that, again, like, was involved in the cookout. Even though I think archetype-wise, I think there's probably a bit too much of his archetype on this cast of this kind of like person in the early 30s who's good at challenges, which again, there's a few of these. I did feel like Kylan still would make it on the cast, particularly due to his connection to the cookout, to where, again, I think that is something they would like to have represented on this season. Next person, one of the bigger locks on the board, we got Tiffany Mitchell. And again, I think Tiffany is willing to play again. They clearly would want back, and they've brought her back for cameos. I just think, in general, Tiffany's one of the bigger locks on the board. Obviously, orchestrator of the cookout. There's no real reason to say she wouldn't be on, so again, easily made the cut. Also, I did put on Claire, which might be a bit strange here. As again, I think Claire coming out of Big Brother was not necessarily the biggest character in the world. I do feel like she was someone that, again, coming out of the season, I did not think she was particularly like returning. However, since then, she's dating Derek X. And again, they won Amazing Race. They won Amazing Race. She's made a lot of cameos in Amazing Race. So again, I think CBS is definitely high on Claire. Now, yeah, would it be enough to be on this season? Not necessarily, but I think there's other factors involved here. Again, I think archetype-wise, looking at the other women on the board, there's not really this more like nerdy personality there, where again, I feel like she feels a bit different than the other women on the cast. Also, we'll talk about the next person who might bring some intrigue there. Again, I think Claire's a really interesting returnee in his slot, so again, she ended up making it on. And what do you know? I put on Derek X as well, where again, I think it would be interesting to see Derek X and Claire have to play Big Brother again now as a couple. Mixing that in the fact that obviously Derek X is also a top priority for them. I think they obviously loved him. Again, immediately brought him onto Amazing Race, immediately brought him onto the challenge. He was an elf on Reindeer Games. Or again, I think there's a lot of reason to think that Derek X is very high on their boards, to where, and the question is, would he take all that time away to play Big Brother again, which, I mean, to be fair, is probably more of an issue of Claire, to where I don't know if she can get that much time off of her job, but still, screw it. This is a theoretical season anyway. I'm going to put Derek X on, as I do think he's one of the most likely to be brought back. Next up for BB24, and I put two people on the cast from this cast, not the people I was expecting, though. And I did consider Turner did get cut pretty late into the process here. Obviously, has come back for the Amazing Race, and again, very much contemplated putting him here. The question was, for me, would they pick him for Big Brother, especially over someone a bit more recent that I think is in a similar archetype, to where that person also has like established rivalry on the season, to where ultimately, again, Turner's someone that I did not end up going with on the cast. I also did not put on Michael, and Michael's probably the big one here, where I really wanted to put Michael on. I think Michael is someone that would make my dream cast, but for a realistic cast, I don't think they liked Michael. And I think a lot of that stems to the Kyle situation. I think they were clearly at the time very frustrated at Michael and Brittany for having exposed the Kyle situation, which forced them to show it on the show. To where, again, I thought they can get past that, but the fact that, again, he wasn't in the running for Reindeer Games in a spot where he very clearly should have, and also hasn't really been referenced that much in the years since, again, makes me think that they're kind of out on Michael, to where, again, I did not put him on the cast here. Also consider Joseph, who, realistically, I probably wouldn't even mention here if it wasn't for the fact that he was on Amazing Race. Yeah, again, they were willing to bring him back for Amazing Race, so there's a chance they would bring him back for Big Brother, but ultimately, again, I just felt like there was another BB24 person in the similar mold that, again, they would just probably want more. I did consider Jasmine, though. Really, for me, it's like once Turner got cut, Jasmine got cut, to where I think they would want the two together. I don't think Jasmine's someone that is top of their minds just naturally. Again, I do think if Turner was on, I could see them putting on Jasmine, but I think without Turner, I think there's no Jasmine either. The people I did put on, sadly, I put on Monty, where, again, I think Monty's boring. I don't particularly want a Monty return yet. I do think Monty would be in the running. I mean, obviously, they brought him back for Challenge USA too. And something I should mention is that I do mention my Survivor videos. I do think Challenge USA is probably actually a negative for the Survivor players that were on there. I think that was more of an indication of Survivor production being willing to let those people go. I don't think that's as much of a thing with Big Brother. I don't think Big Brother really has returning seasons in mind like that. And beyond that, obviously, the Big Brother people that were on are a lot of the bigger names of recent seasons, to where I think that was just genuinely a spot where they just got who they could get. And again, there's no way that Tiffany Mitchell being on Challenge USA is a bad sign for her, to where, again, I think at the end of the day, with someone like Monty, I think it's probably a good sign that they brought him back. I think it's indication that, again, they liked him, and again, I think you can clearly tell they liked him in the edit of BB24. Where also, again, he is a pretty competent player, again, a well-rounded player all around, has a good redemption story, coming back after losing to Taylor, to where, again, I do think they would bring Monty back. The other person is a bit of a dark horse pick. I do think they like Amira. Again, Amira is one of these. Also, I think is benefited by Challenge USA. The fact that they brought her back for Challenge USA, I think is a good sign for her. Now, the fact that, again, I think she's someone that can stir some drama. I think she also is like a player that got sniped out of the game, was playing a pretty good game. I think there's a lot of reasons to bring her back, and bring her back with Monty here could be potentially interesting, though, to be fair, it wasn't that interesting on Challenge USA, but still, I do think Amira is someone that they would look at pretty highly. Again, I brought her back here. Next up for BB25, and here I did put on two people from this cast on the cast. Also, probably not the most obvious picks here, but people I considered but did not put on. I did not put on Matt. I do think Matt is someone that obviously he was in the running for fan favorite, but I think the sticking point for them is obviously them having to accommodate for him being deaf, which they didn't seem to handle particularly well, and I feel like they'd probably avoid casting him here. Now, obviously, they would probably want Suri. Yeah, Suri would obviously say no. I did consider America, though I sadly don't think that America's super top of mind for them. I don't think she'll be brought back. Blue, similar-ish thing. I think they probably liked Blue a little bit more. I think they like the kitty purr of it all, but I still don't think they would bring her back. Also, I would consider Corey, though. I think he's one that, again, like he obviously was in the running for Amazing Race, did not make the cut there. I also think in terms of like the super fan role, there's probably somebody from the more recent season that I decided to put on over him, to where while I can definitely see a world where Corey is asked back and in the running, I ultimately just did not go with him here. I also considered Cameron, and Cameron's probably one of the bigger ones that, looking at this practically, is probably shocking that he didn't make it on. And I think realistically, I think Cameron's time might be done already. Again, like obviously he was on BB25, very, very popular from the casuals at least. Again, one fan favorite. Was immediately brought back for reindeer games. But obviously he was sniped early and didn't really bring that much. But again, I wouldn't necessarily dock him necessarily for that. But I do think, again, in the year since, again, Cameron's definitely a lot less prominent. I don't feel like you see Cameron around that much. And also, I think they kind of got what they wanted to get from Cameron. To where I think when looking at Cameron's archetype, there's just other people to be bringing back as like fan favorite underdog that makes crazy moves. To where I think Cameron is probably somebody that at this current point might be a bit overshadowed. Well, beyond that, I also consider Jared. I mean, Jared's obviously the son of Suri, where maybe they would still want Jared in that spot. And I think you could debate it with the likes of Monty and Kylan, that casting slot. I do think they would go with Kylan and Monty over Jared, though I wouldn't say it's necessarily impossible here. Also considered Izzy, who straight would not even be mentioned in this video had it not been for the fact that she was on The Amazing Race, where really I thought CBS would just completely forget about Izzy after the fact that she got severely under-edited on BB25, to where, again, the fact that she was brought back for Amazing Race is a good sign here. Yeah, ultimately, again, I just feel like for Big Brother, a spot where, again, she was severely under-edited, I just don't know if the Big Brother producers pick her to be brought back here. Also, I consider Riley, where clearly they liked Riley. They gave her a massive edit early on. So I did consider her, though I did think a certain person from the next season kind of overshadows her casting slot. So with that, the people I did put on Felicia. Now, truth be told, some of this is definitely wishful thinking. Again, I don't know if Felicia really is that high on their boards, considering the fact that, again, Felicia was not called for Amazing Race, which is kind of insane. So again, I don't know if they're necessarily clamoring to bring her back to Big Brother, but again, I want them to bring her back to Big Brother. So again, I said screw it. Put Felicia on anyway. Again, I would like to see Felicia back. I do think Felicia was someone that they liked at the time. So again, how much lasting power is there? Who knows? But I decided, as of right now, to put Felicia on the cast. Other person I put on, again, early boot that they clearly loved, I put on Hisam. And Hisam's not one of these people, massive character, really good competitor, and someone that you could tell they very much liked. And they literally brought him back to do a promo for The Exorcist. And again, he's still in the Big Brother community, where again, I think Hisam would be a probable returning at this point. Now again, over time, I do think I'll probably fade away. Though again, at this current point in Big Brother, I decided to go with him here. And finally, we're moving on to BB26. And I did put 4 people from BB26 on the cast. I think they clearly love BB26's cast. And Julie constantly talked about how they're her favorite cast. And obviously, BB26 literally just happened. I think this would be very top of mind. Now, people I consider but did not put on. Now, first up, I did consider Rubina. And Rubina is someone that I personally have no interest in seeing Big Brother again. So again, considering the fact that she was called for Amazing Race, I think it's probably a good sign there. Though in reality, again, I feel like Rubina is just a very Amazing Race style of casting choice, to where I think for her to actually make the cut for Big Brother again would be pretty mind-blowing. So again, I did not put her on. Also consider Chemo, where I think they liked Chemo. I mean, Julie clearly loved Chemo, though I think the fact that his zing was about how boring he was is probably not a good indication about his return. Also considered Leah, and Leah was relatively close to making the cut here. I do feel like archetype-wise, I could see a world where Leah makes the cut, though also, again, there's a lot of BB26 people to be in the running, and I feel like a certain other person's a little bit more likely than her at this point, so again, I did not go with Leah. I consider T-Core. I mean, T-Core is someone that was a big player on the season. I think the issue with T-Core is that she got a very small edit. Sure, I don't get the sense that they love T-Core. I don't think she would be brought back. I also considered Brooklyn, who was someone that, again, got a decent edit by the time she left. I mean, she got the entire charcuterie board situation. She was very much portrayed as a villain towards the end. Where, again, I think they liked what she brought towards the end, but again, she was kind of boring for the first 4 weeks, and I feel like that's probably also going to be in their minds. So again, I think in terms of this sort of archetype, I feel like Amira is more likely than Brooklyn in this spot. I also considered Cedric, and Cedric's one of these people that I think they did very much like. I could see him being brought back, especially for this second chance sort of season. Yeah, again, by the end, he just simply did not make the cut. With that, again, 4 people from this cast made the cut here. First up, we got MJ. I think MJ is someone that would be on their radars. I think they liked what MJ brought to the show. She was constantly called the comp beast of the season, where I think they liked her. She also, again, fulfills an archetype that is not really that well represented on this season of a younger woman for the cast, where I think every other woman on the cast outside of Claire, and even Claire's almost 30, or in their 30s or above. So again, I think MJ is kind of the younger woman for the cast. So again, she made the cut. Also, I obviously put on Angela. Now, for a while, I was actually a bit worried about Angela's potential returning chances, just due to the fact that, again, I think she was a bit chaotic and a bit hard to control from production standpoint. I mean, we even saw that entire situation week 2 that production would obviously not be particularly happy with if it happened again. Where, again, I think that is something to question, though. At the end of the day, Angela is still Angela. She is still one of the biggest names in modern Big Brother, an incredible character, somebody that also they obviously immediately brought back for The Amazing Race, and I think that's probably an indication of the fact that obviously my initial worries don't matter. I think they would probably just bring her back anyway. Though, again, I think the qualm here is, again, having both Angela and Felicia. Obviously, they're both of a similar archetype. Again, both grandmas, both massive characters. I do think there is a very distinct difference, though, between Angela and Felicia in terms of the type of content they bring to the show. And again, considering BB25 had a lot of older women on that cast, I said, screw it. Again, there's precedent more recently to have both of them on, so I did do that. Also, I did put on Quinn, and I think Quinn is kind of in this spot where, again, immediately after the season, I think he's very likely. They clearly liked him. He was top 3 fan favorite. I think he'd definitely be in the running. And I think with Quinn on the cast, I think that, again, kind of nullifies Corey, though too fair. And I think Corey's like a different archetype. But I think having Quinn here kind of made it less likely I cast Corey. Also, I think this is kind of where the Turner spot went as well, where I think it's kind of tough to see them putting Turner and Quinn both on the same cast, even though, again, I think they are actually different. Again, Quinn is a lot more of this really loud personality, while Turner's, again, more chill. But I do think, like, just raw archetype-wise, I think they're kind of filling the same slot on the cast. So, again, I think the recency of Quinn here definitely gives him the edge. So, again, he made the cut. And obviously, I'm going to have Tucker on the cast, where, again, I think there's no doubt that Tucker is probably the most likely returning at this current point, Big Brother. I think next returning season, of whatever semblance of returnings we get, Tucker is there. Where, again, I think if we get a pulse situation, they bring back one person, that person is Tucker. If we get a captain season at some point, one of those people is going to be Tucker. If we get a full-blown all-star season, Tucker is undoubtedly going to be there. Where, again, I think at this current point in Big Brother, Tucker is the most likely person to be brought back. I think the question would be, how long is that status going to hold for? Though, I think at this current point, obviously, again, Tucker was just fan favorite, despite being such an early boot on his season, where I think Tucker is very likely to be brought back. So, again, he easily made the cut. And with that, that is my cast of Big Brother Second Chance. Now, running through people that made the cut. From BB16, I have Donnie. From BB17, I have Vanessa. From BB18, I have Victor. From BB19, I have Jessica. From BB23, I do have Kylan, Tiffany, Claire, and Derek X. From BB24, I have Monty and Amira. From BB25, I have Felicia and Heisem. And from BB26, I do have Mackenzie, Angela, Quinn, and Tucker. So with that, again, that is the cast of Big Brother Second Chance. I think these are all people that are on production's radars, while also, again, not being definite no's in terms of whether or not they would accept the show. Obviously, there are people you could swap out here and there. And this is kind of my view of where I do think Big Brother production is currently looking at for returning season, even though, to be fair, I do think there are actually a good chunk of winners that would be on recent seasons. Where, again, I think all of Chelsea, Jag, Taylor, even possibly Xavier, potentially even probably Casey, Josh. I think all those people would be potentially in the running for a modern returnee season, though, again, they're not eligible for this cast. So that, again, that is this casting video. Straight, I do kind of want to do more Big Brother casting videos down the road. Where, again, I legitimately just did not realize I had not done a Big Brother casting video in almost 5 years, literally since the airing of BB22, where that is insanity to me. Where, again, maybe I'll rectify this down the road. Again, I'll definitely do at least one more that I know of by the end of the year, but still, expect more Big Brother content down the road. I'm sure I am intending on doing more Big Brother content over the course of BB27 this year, and I typically do mid-Big Brother season, or typically I do a lot in the lead up to a season, but then once the season actually airs, I kind of slow down on that. This time, we're not doing that. So again, expect more Big Brother videos, and obviously just in general, expect more reality TV, video game videos, the typical stuff. But for now, that is the video. Thank you for watching.